Hey folks, Ariel over here. This is like Murphy's Law. I've been working out here in the garden for most of the morning and there was not a breath of wind. As soon as I was literally setting the camera on the tripod to record this, the wind kicked up. So hopefully the audio is okay. There's also at least 2 construction sites working a few miles up the road from us, so you're probably going to hear backup beepers. If this audio is too terrible, I'll re-record over it, I guess, after I film it. Anyway, apologies for that out of the way. I am planting garlic. I'm doing it right now because we got snow rolling in tonight, and then there's still snow behind edges of shady things from the last storm, but a lot of it melted. And then it looks like steady snow. The ground's been frozen, but it did defrost enough this morning. I should have done this a little earlier. I didn't always be up against things. And today we are going to get garlic planted. Now what I am planting today is garlic we grew this year. If you're new or this is your first video, welcome, and go check out the garlic harvest. You can see when it was planted last year, and all of that stuff. Anyhow, this is, I've got 2 varieties here. They're both hardnecks. They're ones that tend to do very well in our area, which is cold. And they are Music. That's the bigger ones here that I'm planting. And Chesnick Red. I might be messing up the pronunciation of that, but that's the 2 kinds. If you want to see the difference here, let's see, where's a good example. I like the bigger cloves, like the Music tends to get, because they take less time to peel. Of course, you get more cloves with the Chesnick Red, and that allows you to plant a lot more garlic out of one head. That one, for instance, has, let's see, 8, 9, 10, and most of the Musics have 6 cloves. Last year, where this garlic came from was a gentleman that I got to know through some group on MeWe, I don't even remember which one at this point, who raises beautiful garlic. I've bought seed garlic over the years from various people. His was by far the nicest, best quality I've ever gotten. We had the most spectacular record crop we've ever had this year. The only reason I'm not buying more from him this year is because we had such a wonderful crop ourselves and no need to buy any. But if you're looking to get some, I highly recommend contacting him, and if I can remember, I'll link below this video to his email address. Anyway, I planted, just for reference, last year I planted 4 pounds of garlic to each of my 2 varieties, and this year we harvested about right at 25 pounds total, which is about approximately a 6-fold harvest. I was quite pleased with that. That's kind of right in the upper end of average, I guess, for garlic, and that was a wonderful thing. We used tons of it in cooking and sauces and all kinds of things, and so I'm planting about the same amount this year. This is the exact same bed that it was in last year. Garlic is a crop that particularly seems to do well the more consecutive years it's planted in the same place. So I'm not sure exactly the reasoning on why, but that's what people seem to have found over time. So that's what we're going to do. So that's the Musics. They're going to go at this end. And what I'm doing here is just, these are hard necks, so there you can see the hard neck in the center that I broke the cloves off of. I'm just carefully, pulling the cloves off of that hard neck, and then we're going to plant the individual cloves. I think this red one's, red is maybe a bit of a stretch, but they do have a beautiful purple color to the cloves. They're just a lovely, lovely garlic. And I am trying to only plant good-looking cloves. I don't want to plant the teeny tiniest ones. People also seem to find that planting the great biggest ones doesn't necessarily lead to a harvest of all great big ones. So I'm kind of planting good, healthy, medium-sized ones. I'm trying not to plant anything like that where when I pull it apart, the papery cover has already split off. That might grow okay, but it could get frozen and have some bacteria decide to digest it before it got to growing. So I'm just going to take that one back in the house and use it next time I'm cooking instead of planting it. So And then this is really simple. This is the garden bed that I'm not sure if I'll get this video together. I've got to do my editing once it's actually snowing again, because I have to get all this done. But you either see this just before or just after the one about putting the garden to bed for the winter and all the compost and everything I've added to each bed. That's what you're looking at here on the surface. Everything's mulched nicely, so we don't have any bare soil, even though we've got too cold of a climate to be able to grow any kind of cover crop in the winter, because we're usually deeply under snow, which looks like it's about to start finally. It's late this year. Anyway, we're going to get these guys tucked in. It would have been fine to plant these several weeks ago, for sure. Even if they start to come up and you get a little green sprout sticking above the surface before the snow comes, that's fine. I think my mom in Pennsylvania already has hers planted and already up with little green sprouts, and she's in a much, much warmer climate than me, so that's fine. I'm pushing the late end of things here because I never seem to have quite enough time to get everything done that I want to do. So with planting garlic, or planting most things, to keep it from getting too crowded or not enough, what I like to do is lay out what I'm going to plant before I actually bury them, so that I can see where I've got them and not lose track. Before I bury any of them, I'm spreading them out like this. With these beds, these blocks are 16 inches, so the inside of the bed is, 32 inches, and I'm doing 5 across, and then 4, and then 5, in alternating rows, because as you can see, they're staggered. That seems to work well the staggering works well for a lot of plants. It gets more into my same amount of bed space and gives each one, they've all got 4 or 5 inches of space between them, and that has seemed to give them sufficient space to grow nice and large, but not leave great big open stretches of bed that are kind of wasted space. So you can see how I'm just laying my pattern out here. Otherwise, I just lose track of which clove I stuck in, and then sometimes I get them doubled up, or sometimes I get a hole. So if I just pattern these all out like this, that's a 4 row, this is a 5 row, and then we'll show you how we're going to stick them in. When you pull these apart from their cloves, they would have been together something like that. The little pointy ends are the top. That's where the shoot's going to come out, and this end is where the roots are going to grow. Same end the roots were on the parent plant. So I'm going to go across the rest of that bed, but so I don't have to let the camera run here in the wind the whole time. What I'm going to do is use my little hoary knife here and go right through all my layers of compost and fertilizer and everything that I've done, and stick that in just nice and firmly, a couple inches below the surface. That's getting it just into the actual existing soil and below this compost blanket. And then I can kind of go and cover up the little holes. But you see, that's why I do my layout first, so I don't lose my spot. So for each one, you could use your fingers. My soil's pretty soft, but it's also a little damp and cold right now. So using my little trowel hoary knife here is nice. And I'm just sticking that down in, probably about that far below the surface, which, like I said, is getting it down into the actual soil, because this whole top layer is our mulch of our composted materials and some that are still composting. As you can see, that top layer is not entirely broken down. And just make sure you put the pointy end up and the rounder butt end down, so it doesn't have to grow in a circle to get its point coming up. And that is all I'm going to do. I'm not even going to, the soil is pretty damp anyway, but even if it wasn't, I'm not going to water them. I'm not in any hurry for these to get growing or anything. They're going to get watered by snow in the next day anyhow. But I'm just going to continue that across the whole garden bed here and get this planted. So once again, it varies a little bit with the variety you're growing and how many cloves there are, in a head. Like the Chestnut Red, I said, has, smaller cloves by a little bit. These are still pretty good size, but smaller than the Music. And so I get more plants out of a single head, but I do like the bigger cloves. Anyway, so depending on what variety you plant, there may be these are very good varieties for cold northern areas. If you live in a warm southern area. There's a clove that the paper came off on the side as it came apart, so we're going to put that in the house to cook with. There may be much better varieties for your area, but in our area, these are ones I do recommend trying. That one was another separated one. Anyway, check down below if you want to buy your seed garlic from the same guy that these originals came from. This is now our second generation here on this property. I had my own before, but I lost it in the move because I knew I couldn't plant it the fall before, when I knew I was moving the house and the garden and everything in the spring, and so we just ate it all, and then I didn't have any of my own. Oh, hi, Velcro. But 4 pounds of garlic last year yielded us about 25 pounds of yield, so that kind of gives you an estimation of, maybe how much you need to plant. If you have some idea of what your household uses in the course of a year, how much you want to harvest, then you can. I should put my seed pile here further down the bed. Hi, sweetheart. You're a little bit in the way. You know that? Yeah? Yeah, you want petted. I know, but my hands were busy. Where? I know. You're so snuggly. Curl up in my lap if you want. Anyway, so that can give you a pretty good idea of how much you may want to plant to get the kind of yield that you want. I know Bradley, he gets a little jealous when she's in my lap instead of him. But these two are such good friends. I look out and they'll be cuddled together, taking a nap or whatever. They like each other, which is interesting. Growing up, I always had dogs, was around dogs and cats that generally did not get along. It's been fun to have these guys be such good friends. Now I lost track of my pattern. There we go. And I think that was largely thanks to Velcro. She was so determined when she first rolled in. She was this teeny weeny little puffball. She's still teeny. She's never going to be a big kitty, I don't think. But she just marched right up to the dogs and was like, "You will be my friend." And Burley was like, "Okay." Yeah. Putting your ears back in the cold breeze. Yeah, I might need to go get another coat too. Okay, we're going to hang the camera up here and get back to what we're actually doing. That's what we're going to do. I know. I'm so glad I have garlic planting helpers. I am. I'm so glad. Beep beep. Okay, both of you guys, I need to move.
We hope you enjoyed it.
Come back next time for more adventures.
Thanks for watching.